Hi. So now we're going to look at the symptoms in uh, for PTSD for oral childhood rape. And although having a neurological process brain disorder, focusing primarily on overall brain health, we're looking at post-traumatic stress disorder with a comorbid simultanagnosia. And what is really recognizable is a patient's symptoms. Something as simple as a stomach ache, rather what is referred to as like a gut instinct or a traumatic life experience. So if a child is, they're having a hard time digesting their food, they're sick to their stomach, they can't, they can't take in food. That's a good idea if they're sort of starving to check, whether their tonsils are very swollen or if there are lacerations, um, and those types of things. So a stomach ache is the first thing that you can notice because they might be hungry or they aren't able to digest their food. And then also, like they might have a migraine headache. That's another thing, because the thrust of the injury can actually, because it's deforming the bones, somewhere in there, a migraine can happen from, the injury itself. So it's painful. And so their brainwave breaks down, which is also in association to the process of just oral swallowing, not being able to swallow water, not being able to swallow food, not being able to swallow anything after a neck and head injury like that. So when looking at comorbid simultanagnosia, a person's unable to understand why someone chose to do this to them, and their mind triggers maladaptive stimulus, and they have a rapid misfire in neurotransmission, which shatters the patient's whole existence, just rendering them helpless. And eventually the patient's whole life concept just falls apart. So they're just falling apart, and their limbs are breaking as well. Well, not their limbs, but their skull. So we're looking at like jawbones and neck, and anything that's like near the amygdala and the brainstem, in those areas as well. So specific neurons necessary to help a person's basal ganglia process information breaks down in dopamine reception because there's so much pain, and it's such a violent act. So we address the childhood trauma and association to rape and oral sexual abuse to further understand the biological process into the adult lifespan, eventually, what happens to a child that's been through that. So we'll get onto that as we're going here. But I'm going to go ahead and end this slide.